Alright, so first thing to do is pop out these T25 screws to get the winch cover plate off the RZR. So we will do that real quick. I think that little bit of dirt there, that's because this machine gets used. Alright. Then the next step is to take these two bolts out that secure this tow hook right here. I think there's some kind of plate back there that seems to be moving around a bit, so before I get this bolt all the way out, I think I'm going to try to get another bolt in there to hold it in place. Well, there he goes, as you can see. So I'm going to fiddle with that for a little bit, get it back up in place and secure it with that bolt. Actually, I think if I turn this, I might be able to get, I can still turn this bolt and you should be able to see that hole pop up there. There it is. So I'll get this bolt in there now to keep a hold of it so that plate kind of stays where it's supposed to stay. And I'll pop this other guy out and see if I can put him in as well. Yep. There he is. So that might be a good idea for you if you're not wanting to fight too hard trying to get that plate back in place. That way we can kind of keep it there. Excellent. And we'll just pull this grill down. And we'll go get the winch plate and have a look at, oh, I believe we got to put a mounting bracket right in here. So that'll be the next step. Got to go get that. It's a 15 millimeter, by the way, and you're supposed to align the threaded holes in it with the outside holes. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick these bolts in there right now to keep my eye on that alignment, so that when I get to twisting this thing down, I don't mess it up too bad. I'll back them out in a second. Okay. Boy, that thing bites pretty good, doesn't it? Back it off a hair. See if we can center it up just right. Alright, that guy's in there, and be ready for the winch mounting plate. But I might have to unspool the thread and get that BB out of there and get the rubber stop on it through the fair lead and the plate before I do the install, because I think I got to put the winch in this guy before I put it over there. So we will find out in a moment. Indeed, step 5 says mount the winch to the main mounting plate using the included hardware in the winch kit. Orient the winch with the motor on the passenger side of the mount plate. So I think it's going to go like that, and then you got your free spool and whatnot over here on the right side. I think that's what they mean. But the key thing is, sooner or later you're going to want to put that rubber stop on, and you got to get it over this this little hook here, and that doesn't usually work too well. So it's a lot easier to take the thread all the way, the rope all the way out, and then spool it back through the stopper. And then if you're going to do that, you might as well thread it through the fair lead cover that's going to go right there. So this will involve taking all this off, popping there's a little BB out, and when I get down to that level, I'll show you what I'm talking about so that all of this can go in there and make a little sense. So I'll stop while I'm pulling this rope out of here, and you have to disengage that free spool, and then it's pretty darn tight, but you can get it out of there, right? So it's ultimately going to go through this rubber stopper, but you can't simply push that through. It's going to feed through from the other side real easy. But this is going to be sitting inside the plate, and this is going to be mounted So before you put the stop on, make sure you put the winch behind the plate, run the rope through the fair lead, then through the stopper, then wind it back up. As you get towards the end of the thread, you should see like a little folded piece right there, and there's a little BB inside. I don't know, you might be able to see it already right there. That kind of just keeps it from collapsing in on itself. And you don't want to lose that when you bring it around to the bottom. Now we got to get that dude out of there. Little needle nose pliers maybe. It's got like some heat shrink on it or something to keep that end. There's the BB, right? So that heat shrink sits around that and ties the end of the rope up, and there's your little BB, so you want to hang on to that guy. Should be needing him in a little bit. Little magnetic tray action. Okay, then you can get the rope out. Just take a good look at how it's oriented. It comes underneath and back around, loops, and then it's going to go that way. We won't be able to wind it up till we get power on it anyway, but we'll deal with that. We'll think about whether or not we need to get the winch back here, and then maybe we can still access it and get that BB through this hole. I don't know what it's going to look like when it's on there though. Well, no, the winch will be there. We'll see. There's 2 sets of mounting holes on the bottom of the winch plate, and I think that's in case you get one of the wide spool winches. Maybe it lines up differently, but to center this one, we're going to be using the centermost holes. Also, there's a lock washer that goes on the bolt, but it's kind of close to the size of the hole, so I'm going to toss in a washer first, and then the lock washer. That way we might get a more even compression on it. I'm going to fiddle with mounting it up right now. All right, it's my belief that it's going to be easier to mount this fair lead with the winch not mounted yet. So we'll go ahead and get this thing lined up into these holes here. Throw some hardware on it, and then finish mounting it up. What size are these bad boys? Feels like they're 16s. Lock that down. And then get a socket on this guy right here. Snugs up quick. I always have to check my wrenches that way. Sometimes it depends on the orientation of the wording on the front of the wrench, but ain't that good. Alright, so that's snugged up. Now I'm going to put the winch in, and we'll get it snugged up. So there's the fair lead mounted on the front. Definitely helps to prop the mounting plate up a little bit so you can get under there and have the weight of the winch pushing down and flush on the plate. Otherwise, trying to get those bolts to bite, they get a little cockeyed here and there. You don't want to get anything cross-threaded, so I just tossed this little clamp on here for a second to see if that would help me out. Well, while fiddling around with it, I found the longer bolts did fit on the side that's got the 2 loose hex nuts inside there. The stationary, the threaded metal, though, I think works better with the short ones, and I believe that these guys are 13s. So let's see if we can't snug these puppies up, see if they fit okay. Yep, looks like that's going to be what we're doing here. So I'll snug these 13s up, and then we'll have the winch sitting in there, and we'll take another close look at it to make sure that we can still do all of our threading fun later. All right, with the fair lead on the mounting plate and the winch in the mount, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this mounted up, and I should be able to, I don't know, I'll see how much room I can get my hand behind here, but I might be able to pull off putting the rope in last. If I don't think I can do it though, I'll put the rope in now and just leave it laying on the floor until I have it powered up, which will be obviously towards the end. But I'm gonna go ahead and see how this thing looks when it gets on the RZR. Right, I'm zooming in right here on where that that tow hook was, because that plate's loose back there, right? But look up here. There's a little lip that comes up and fits over top of the metal there. So I think when you're messing with this, if you get like that and it's bouncing around, there's no lip up there now, right? Try to lift it up a little bit, and you can see that lip come over and grab on there. That's going to be pretty handy. Okay, got the winch mounted. It's in the plate. The plate's mounted to the RZR. Pretty nice looking, clean sort of fit. Does extend out obviously a little bit, but nothing too bad, I think. I don't think it's going to be a problem. The winch is sitting behind there. You definitely do have to put the winch on the mounting plate before you put the plate on the RZR, because once you get the mounting plate installed, you cannot fit the winch in from either side because of the way that these tabs are bent back. And you can see I've got the rope in there. Maybe you can get a view of that ball bearing sitting inside there. It's tucked away, so it's fed underneath. And yes, I strung it. I took it all the way off, and then I strung the rubber stopper all the way through. So I'll be good to go when I can power this up. I'll spool it up. Now, it is a little bit tricky working with these bolts down below, these guys down here, because that plate wants to move around on you a little bit. So just be careful when you do that. I actually ended up using some tape to hold mine in place. And if you reach up under here, you can get your hand back there behind that plate and press it forward when you're trying to put the bolt in, and that really helps. So I just put it on loosely until I got those two bolts threaded, then I tightened them up, then I tightened the top ones, and everything's good to go. So I'm going to transition to the wiring part and locate the contactor and all that fun stuff, and I'll give you guys a heads up when I dig into that. Okay, so Motoalliance recommends installing the contactor right on top of the glove compartment, which would be right here, the glove box. I think that'll work. And then I think they'd say put the wireless remote right here, and I think that'll work as well. All right, after looking around and studying the lengths of the cables that come with the package, I think what I'm going to do is tie my power into this power post. I'm pointing it out. It's right down here. That's got a it's from the battery. It comes up, gives you a place to tie in for big amperage up front, and but the post is a little wider, so I'm probably going to put one of these guys on the end of the power wire, and then they should reach the distance that is recommended for where they suggest to put the contactor, which is just over here on the glove box. So I should be able to have my battery cable is basically going from there to there, and then the ground cable will come through and attach to this ground post that's got a rather beefy ground from the battery. So that should work. And then the blue and yellow wires will run from the contactor, and they should be comfortable running the distance down through there and on over to there where they will pick up the winch. So that's my plan. Then I don't have to take the channel off, and my friends and I call that thing in the middle of the channel. That should be no big deal. And I think I popped the hole there, so I'm getting ready to put the switch in as well. Okay, so you can see I've got a huge zip tie ready to fish through the wiring for the switch and all. The point I wanted to make is that this switch is ultimately going to pop into the switch receptacle there on the dashboard, and then I would be trying to fit the back end of the switch onto the switch underneath all that stuff, and that's not a very good fit. But I checked, this will fit through this hole. So may as well go ahead and connect these guys right now, and then fish the wires through and just pull the switch in and pop it in place, and that way I don't have to get my hands up under there from the other side trying to connect the switch. That would be rather difficult. Make sure the switch is upside up. Fish it through there. Pop it into place. Good to go. All right, those silver dots are my template for drilling the holes, 1/4-inch holes to mount the contactor. So I'm going to drill them real quick. I have some of this like adhesive foam stuff that I had from some other project. I decided to put that on top of the glove box or whatever to create a little bit of a pad in there, but I'll be sure to fasten it down tight. And that's one. That's two. Just a heads up, before I'm going to test fit the contactor in place and make sure everything works, but when you get your wires up here, before you go fastening everything, be sure you put those boots on. That's these guys, these little rubber boots. They'll come over the contactor after a while and keep grime and grub out of there. I'll put dielectric grease on it, and then I'm a big fan of marine heat shrink. I buy it at my local Harbor Freight, and what I'll do is once I get the boot in place, I will put some heat shrink on the back end of it. That'll close that off, and I might put a little tiny zip tie over the contactor where it comes down here. It'll be really good and solid that way. I won't worry about anything getting in there and ever messing with the wires. But first I'm going to test the contactor, make sure it fits in the holes that I drilled. About to test fit the contactor. Well, it looks like it's going to work. Okay, the contactor is mounted. I don't know if you can see in there, but I've got the boots on. There's dielectric grease under the boots, then a small zip tie just crimped around each one of those little guys to make sure that they stay on there. Also mounted the wireless receiver. It's right there. One thing about it is you really can't get any bolts into the lower holes. Those are the upper holes, no problem. So what I did was I'm just going to pan right over into the glove compartment. I used a zip tie down below, and that was long enough to be able to put on while finagling that thing around and everything, and that'll keep the bottom from moving around. Okay, so the wiring's done. Let's take a look around. I haven't put anything away yet, but basically there's the wireless receiver, contactors down below. All the wires are hooked up from the various wiring harnesses to the contactor, and then from the wired remote, which is this cable here, that feeds into that that harness going into the contactor. All very good. Now the blue and yellow wires I ran down here. You can see underneath, and then here they are inside that piece of wire loom, and it comes down and follows its way on through there, the wire loom, and comes out down here. And those are they've got the boots on, dielectric grease underneath, little zip ties to keep them firm on there, and then some marine grease on the other end. So now time to see if everything's going to work. So we'll go over here, put the key in, and turn her on. Look at our Motoalliance switch. Yes, it's got power. Let's try in. Sounds like a winch moving. Out. Okay, good to go on that. Now the wireless remote, we'll try that out. I think what you're supposed to do to turn the wireless remote on is you're going to press one button and hold down the other, and theoretically a red light will come on saying that the receiver is live. So here's the wireless remote, and I'm going to press one button down and then hold the other for 3 seconds, and we'll see if that thing lights up down there. It lit up. You can see that maybe in there, the little red LED, and then we'll try the winch. Oh yeah, it works. You can even see that LED go green, I guess, when it's winding. All right, everything's good. So now it's time to clean up, get this stuff all organized under the hood, and then spool up the line. Okay, winch install complete. Everything is operational. There it is from up above. Move around, pan to the side a little bit. You can see the wires all tucked up nice and neat. Continuing on. You can still see where all that stuff's going there. Sorry about that. Down on over to the dash switch. Well, camera went sideways on me. All is well. So clean install, fun deal. The Winch Viper Elite from Motoalliance, and the install is complete. I'd say it probably took a few hours, depends on what you blow in the process, like if you screw up one of those bolts where that tow hook was, that can take a little bit of time, but everything else is pretty cool. The wiring's pretty straightforward once you get used to the idea. The instructions are very clear. It's all good. Thanks a lot.